Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
Yeah, here we are. We are indeed talking about the game we all love, and it feels like we're getting into snooker season now, Nick. I don't know what it's like down there where you are, but into that cold and wet, it's a bit gross.
It's definitely getting that way. Yeah, definitely. The night's drawing in, and yeah, it's virtually 7 o'clock now, isn't it? Or pretty much around there. And it happens every year, of course, but you still can't help. God, it's getting dark, isn't it? It's always a surprise, isn't it? About the 50 or 51st for me now, but still always a big surprise. Oh, it's getting dark. But yeah, snooker is coming into its own, isn't it? I'm just saying off the air, this English Open that's in progress. I mean, it is a tournament, isn't it? Like on the professional tour, it's a ranking event. It's not an exhibition, is it? Because at times I'm tuning in, they're making it look like it. These stars, they're racking in century after century, like nobody's business. I mean, I was thinking you always earn tournament wins, but the guy, that's left standing come Sunday night, they'll have earned this one because there's so many players looking terrific.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. So we got used to it a bit in some of the Chinese tournaments where there were questions about whether pockets might be a bit more generous or not. But I don't know. I've not heard that said at Brentwood this week. But everyone's just playing brilliantly. And if you're not, you're going to lose. So yeah, no, it's been fantastic from start to finish, right from the round one without the big boys. There was some superb stuff happening, and yeah, it's been a real highlight of the season so far, I suppose. So shout out to Brentwood.
Indeed, and yeah, I mean, I've been on the critical wing definitely, and well, I like to think the realistic wing, of course. About pockets. I think that they have been not great at times, particularly in Chinese events. But I mean, as Roy Walker used to say, say what you see, and I am saying what I've seen. And I think they're okay. They're a bit generous in Shanghai, perhaps, but I haven't seen absolutely blanket coverage this week. It's that's what's added to it actually. I've seen a fair bit, but not everything. Every time I'm tuning in, I'm like, oh, another guy's got two centuries in a row. It's like it's an unreal quality to it, the stars delivering. But no, I don't think the pockets are playing, but in any outlandish way that I've really seen. I've got to be honest. But I'll tell you what, Phil, the headline story is two more maximums. Now, I've been lazily just letting them wash over me, but I think the time has come now for a little bit more analysis. I can't let it go much more now. I've got a column next week. I'm thinking it has to be on that. So it sounds bad, like I'm letting everyone do the work for me, but I want to find some reasons now. So we'll come to that later. There's obviously a host of reasons, really, and it might be one of those things, but it is amazing, and we'll come to that sort of story of more maximums coming up. But we are heading to the last 16, aren't we? This is Thursday morning, just to put you in the picture. And well, Phil, there's actually loads to talk about. I was joking on social media saying we were so short at one time. I thought it might have to be Matt, you'd be like Manuel getting the guitar out, and I'd be like Sybil in that episode of 40 Towers telling stories from yesteryear. But actually, we've done that classic thing. We've now got so much, we'll probably be here until Michaelmas.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as I say, there's been so much going on in the tournament. Um, every other match seems to be a like sort of award-winning standard. So yeah, no, plenty to go on.
We really have. And Phil, what I've done actually, if that's okay, is gone through the last 3 days in more detail. We'll do that, but the first four, just sort of one highlight from each, and go to you. I know you'll probably have a fair bit more to say. Well, I mean, we began on that godforsaken, horrible date of September the 11th last Thursday, and well, you've got to say it. Brilliant effort for Monyi. That carries on the trend of women players delivering really good standard of play. Liam Highfield winning their match 4-2, but a break of 137 from Monyi. That's the highest by a woman in a professional match. So great effort. I mean, the theme of scoring really took on a different level and quality probably from Monday, but there were still examples of it early on. I mean, Chang Bing-yu on day two, ridiculous against Leon Crowley, breaks of 133, 60, 133 and 134. I was thinking poor Crowley scored 10 points, but that's still two more than Zach Shirty in a match we'll come to. Poor old Zach. Day three, well, the crowds, I mean, let's say early, the crowds have been excellent. I mean, sometimes it's been congregated around the TV table, the point I made before in Brentwood, so it's made to look even better than it is. It hasn't always been the whole arena packed out. But listen, no, they've been marvellous. And they were very good, as you'd imagine, for Jimmy White, Luca Purcell on Saturday. Luca winning that 4-1. Very good value this tournament. Someone was
Mm.
asking me on Twitter, I wasn't quite sure. Then a good friend and colleague, Ben Winstanley, top sports journalist, told me he picked up a quarter final ticket for £30. I thought, well, that's pretty good. I thought, goodness. And I think it's the afternoon one, so that's the back to back one he'll be saying. Oh, that's pretty good value. Quarter final of a top tournament. And I don't think these early rounds are much more than about a dozen quid. So for a session. So that's, the Essex public turning out. People are short of money like never before, Phil. That's good value, isn't it? 12 quid.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to you. That's good stuff, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Those first couple of rounds, it's something like that, isn't it? And even then, I think I was looking at the last 32 that we just had. Um, and it was an unbelievable day featuring so many good players. And I think that was 28 for the whole day. Which, yeah, as you say, there's not too many things around that you consider good value these days. Don't want to sound too old about this, but it is true. But that does seem like pretty good value for, hours and hours and hours of top snooker.
Oh God! I mean, you go into Sainsbury's now. I mean, this is pure. We're straying a bit into LBC territory here. But it's like, I mean, I've only got 3 or 4 items, Colonel. That's £18.50. What? It's just like that. Anyway, day 4, Aaron Hill 147, the first of this week, and the ninth of the season in his 4-2 win over Yao Peng Cheng. So yeah, those are the ones I picked out. There are lots of highlights. It's good scoring. That's the story. The Onyi break, the ridiculous Chang Bing Yu performance in his match there that I mentioned, and a 147 from Aaron Hill. So yes, so loads to go on. And listen, people don't like the qualifiers being set, but that's the way snooker's run. I don't really bother me too much, I'll be honest. But when they're joined together like this, maybe you can see the argument more because it's given it a different quality. Let's say that.
Yeah, I think it is better. It feels more like these guys are involved in the tournament and not sort of being shipped off somewhere else, waiting for the big boys to arrive. Like we had the British Open qualifiers right at the very start of the season, and we haven't even had the British Open yet. And it just feels a bit weird when it's really, really separated like that. But yeah, this is better when they can do it. Yeah, a couple of other ones that were notable from the first couple of days. Marco Fu, talking about heavy scoring. Um, he's not been stringing together lots of wins of late, but when he's on one, he just goes mad, and he beat Gao Yang 4-0 with a load of big breaks. He was superb. Jimmy White got a win against Chun Kao Wei um, in the opening round. And yeah, Mink Nutra, again, the women doing um, better and better on the main tour. She beat Robin McGuigan 4-2. And I suppose with the tier draws, it's great for the lower ranked players who have sort of more of a chance against players ranked closer to them. But then it's interesting when you get the odd player that just really should have no business being down there. Like Chang Bing Yu, we know why he's down there. He was suspended. He's coming back. He's clearly a lot better than wherever he's ranked at the minute in the 70s. But also Luca Brissell, Luca Brissell's ranked about 40 something. And he's obviously a lot better than that. But it just spices up those early rounds when you've got someone who's like, "What are you doing here?" But it gives a lower ranked player a great chance to pull off a big shot, but it also gives you a chance to sort of see one of the top boys just thrown in amongst those early rounds, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, good wisdom there. Absolutely, you're right. And well, for Monday, it's been brilliant. Really, great entertainment every day. Tuning in, or if you've been to the tournament. And Kyron Wilson came unstuck. He was beaten 4-2 by Robbie Williams. Cracking win for Robbie. And yeah, Kyron had that big win, didn't he, early in the season? But the other ones, he's been a tiny bit short so far this season. And Mark Selby beat Liam Highfield 4-1. No problems for Mark there. Breaks of 52, 101 and 103. Ding Junhui, I've heard a few people say, hasn't always had a particularly good time at the home nations. Well, he had a win against Liam Pullen, 4-1, breaks of 80, 92, 130 and 71. It's just a selection, of course. All the full stories will be for you on the various news platforms. Totally snookered, thinking about our friend Michael Day and Snooker HQ with David Caulfield and WST site as well. All the scores as well, of course, on snooker.org. And then I have to say, I saw Sean Murphy against Zach Scherty, and it's the old computer game thing. I mean, Murphy, it was pot, stomp, pot, stomp. That's the way I saw it. He just absolutely magical snooker from Murphy. 1-2-5, 1-3-5, and 1-3-3. I mean, ludicrous to me, pure granddad. They were speculating on commentary how many shots. I thought I didn't see the first two frames enough to concentrate completely. Then they go back and just check. I was going, I'll be first with a line. I'll beat them all to this. Scrabbling back. Yes, I finally got it. He's only played 5 shots. Sean's not going to miss. Went all the way back. By the time I'd done it, he got 8 points. So it ruined the whole thing anyway. But anyway, never mind. I'm glad he got 8 points, by the way.
Yeah.
But on the front of a home crowd, you have to feel. I mean, Zach looked like he was sort of feeling it as well. He's not one to really sort of disguise it. Someone made the point he was looking around a lot. He was actually. Players are different. Some folk, he was sort of like all over the place. He was looking at anything else. I mean, Murphy, when he's like that, we got a question about Sean Murphy later, actually, in our correspondence. But you had to feel for Zach.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You would at any tournament. Like it's a bit of a nightmare. But especially when he obviously got friends and family in. Because the odd chance he did come to the table, he got a big cheer, a big roar on. But there was very little opportunity to do that. Murphy was just absurd. And yeah, it's one of those. It's that kind of game, isn't it? Is it better? Do you feel more annoyed if you've got chances and miss them, or is it more frustrating if you just don't even get to go to the table? Like you may as well not be there. Um, so yeah, felt for Stack definitely, but Sean, yeah, when he's on that, he's just um, yeah, you wonder why he hasn't won. He's won loads, hasn't he? He's been one of the best players in the world for ages, but like if he could do that a bit more regularly, he'd have won even more. Just unbelievable stuff. You can't really play any better. Um, and then that was the same night. I think that game followed Mark Williams against Amir Kosh, didn't it, on this main table, which caused a bit of frustration. I think that was the game on the main table on the TV when Luca Brazil was playing Hossein Vafai on a stream on another table. And I know Mark could be much higher ranked than either Luca or Hossein, but I think Mark Williams versus Amir Sarkosh was never going to be a classic best of 7, or very unlikely to be. Whereas Luca against Hossein was very, very good. Went to a brilliant decider, which Luca just about got over the line. It was great stuff. I'm sure Sean Murphy was probably pleased it was that way around because he got on quite a lot earlier than he would have done. But yeah, it's difficult with the TV choices, and they do try and do it on rankings when they can, I think. It felt like that was a much more obvious, better game than the one they stuck on TV.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm always very proud, and this is true. I really was the first to do this. Very nerd. You remember there was a line for ages going round about United having a run of FA Cup matches. Well, I'm the first one that totted that up, and it was only about 6 years deep when I did it. But I was like, I can't remember the last time, and it just was an absolutely absurd run of fixtures. I mean, obviously, quarters, semis, or sorry, what am I saying? Sixth round, semis, and final. They're going to be on, but every third, fourth, fifth round involving United. And I think it's the same principle, isn't it? It's like they picked Liverpool, Southampton in the is that it's not been played yet, is it? Actually, it's the one coming up in the League Cup. I'm like, there's some good matches. I mean, okay, Swansea Forest might have been a bit of a stretch to put that on, but what a game that turned out to be. Okay, they couldn't have worked out that Ange Postecoglou was going to take over at Forest, but there's lots of other good games in this round. The TV companies want the biggest stars, the biggest names, Liverpool and Manchester United in football on free to air. And this is different, it's not free to air, but TNT and Discovery, I suppose they just want Mark Williams. That's it. He's an absolutely enormous name in the sport. I mean, Luca is as well, but I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to think why it would be, because you're right. Actually, as a match, that offered more because Hossein is better than Amis Sarkoch, isn't he? Really, or he's more likely to offer a match. But yeah, no, it does happen. And people say about Ronnie and Judd. I mean, they're just always on, aren't they? But yeah, no, it's interesting. That I imagine that must have been cracking, Luca and Hossein. I didn't watch it, but that's a nice clash between those two, isn't it? And And Mark Williams, well, he got a comfortable win, and it just carried on that trend, didn't it? I mean, we saw Judd Trump on Tuesday. Phil beat Michael Holt 4-0, breaks of 55, 107, and 130 from Trump. He's got a new cue, which is about time because the old one didn't do much for him, did it? Yeah, 7 years, and yeah, we did all right with the old one, but he said he wants more power. Did you see the interview with Rachel Casey, by the way? Wonderfully coy from Judd when Rachel asked him about specifics of the queue. He wasn't
Mm.
answering that. He said, "Oh, I don't like to talk about that too much." She wanted to know make and where he got it from and all
Mm.
sorts, and he was not forthcoming. Well, Stuart Bingham beat Dylan Emery 4-0, two centuries for Bingham. Neil Robertson beat Sonny Akani 4-1, two centuries for Robertson. And Zhao Zintong went even better, one further, three centuries in his win over Ishpreet Singh Chadha 4-0. Breaks of 105, 134, 110, and it just continued that great form that night from the world champion. And that was the theme of the tournament. As I say, it continues to be that way. We're now speaking, as I say, on a Thursday morning. And well, maybe the line from there to ask you about his job with his new cue. I mean, he just says he wants to get that bit more power with it. And of course, he's already known as one of the more powerful players out there. So woe betide for Judge Rivals if he finds form with this new one. This new Alan McManus, we'll come to later, has come up with a great line. But I think he's always said a piece of wood. Well, if this piece of wood delivers, then the rest are in trouble, Phil.
Yeah, well, I think it was Angles who noticed it. He mentioned it on commentary, and he didn't know, but he just sort of thought it looked like a new cue, and he was right. So superb eyes from Alan there. And yeah, Judd, yeah. So his first one since 2018. So he's won a hell of a lot of tournaments with that old one. That must be a hard decision to put that away. I'm sure he still got it, obviously. But yeah, he looked brilliant against Holt. To be fair. And he said he didn't think it was perfect yet, but it didn't seem to be letting him down too much. So we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, that Tuesday was just it felt like a day of just the big hitters really sort of throwing their weight around. Trump looked brilliant, Robertson looked brilliant, Zhao looked superb in that win against Ishpreet Singh Chadha. Really, really good. Zhao Guodong got nearly all the way through a max. I think he got to the 14th black.
Oh yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean that's the thing. We'll get to the
yeah,
maximum chat, but there's not only been loads, there's been a lot of near misses as well. It's just all over the place.
very much so.
Um, I, yeah, and another good win for Aaron Hill. Just keeps up this fine form. He beat Stephen Maguire last one on that day. So he's just continuing to impress. I saw
Mm.
Rob Francis tweet that he's looked at different players since he came on here. Not sure if we're taking credit, but I'm happy for others people to give it to us. Why not?
Well, as you know, I don't always like giving myself credit, Phil, but there are times on occasion I will have to do that. The thing is, funny enough, I normally will jump at that sort of thing, and yes, I think he's come on, but I think it's so natural with him that he's getting that way anyway that I just think he just looks like it's almost the classic improvement in a way you'd expect in a player with that timeline with him. And every time I sort of see him and look at his results, I sort of think, yeah, he's getting there, he's getting there, and yeah, really, really good prospect, and it's great to see. Great for Irish snooker fans as well to get behind someone that's really, really, producing the goods. He was great on here, of course. That's for you to listen to if you wish. If you didn't hear that, Aaron joining us over the summer, and well, there was a couple of really good, interesting results. One featuring Aaron on Wednesday. Well, let's come to it, Phil. A tenth. This is yesterday, as we're speaking now. A tenth 147 of the season for Ali Carter, and I did like Alan McManus. Don't let us down now, Alistair, which was the great. I put it on my social media. People liking that. The great 2025 version of Good Luck, Mate. Of course, it wasn't commentary. It wasn't it would have been Jackson Page, Neil Robertson, which we'll come to. That was the match, wasn't it? They went over there and sort of took up commentary on the last few balls, and I like that the way they adapted and did that.
Yeah.
But it did mean that I guess that people watching it live had it without commentary, and most of the clips I've seen have gone out. But I did put a little clip up, and people are enjoying that, and that was tricky black. I mean,
Mm.
Neil Foles mentioned that maybe a bit of tension. He played it a bit too hard, and actually, I can't remember now whether it was he just played it down there. It came off the cushions. It wasn't hard enough. I should remember that. But anyway, it was either too hard or not hard enough. But I'll go and look at it again in a minute. But anyway, he left himself a tricky black, but he had no problem dispatching it. And well, as I say, maybe we'll talk about that. I think that loads of players make them and lose. There was that character, the guy that I think did it once for Dave Hendon, didn't it? The actual, you know, stats on it, and it's not the case, but it just seems the case that players make them so often and lose. Aaron won that match 4-3. And just a word about Jackson Page, Neil Robertson. Great win for Jackson. I mean, Neil got a century in frame two. He looked pretty good, 102, but then Page made 65, 51, and 70 to win it. And, well, I'll come to the other highlights of that day now. But I'll tell you what, one more thing, Phil. Great line from Neil Folds. I'm pretty sure it was Neil saying that Ali had never made one on his own at an event.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, the '08 World Championships, the famous one, that was when Roddy, or I don't know if you looked this up yourself, you might have done.
But Carter tweeted it this morning saying he's only ever shared the prize money.
Oh, brilliant. I missed that.
He's well aware of it.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. So he knows it himself. Yeah. Some reason, you think, I always did that thing about, I remember, you know, the phone number they used to ring on Saturday Superstore, but I can't remember what they did yesterday. It's a bit like that. I don't really remember him and John Higgins making maximums at the 21 British Open. And we'd have done that on the air. I mean, that's a brilliant. But the other one, if you didn't look it up, you'll never know. There's more. I don't think you'll ever know, Phil Haig. There's more chance of seeing Halley's Comet in Hackney tonight than you know in the other one. It was the
Halley's Comet.
Oh, nice. It was a 2017 German Masters qualifiers.
Wow.
I sound like Phil Yates here, don't I? Proper nerd here. And Ross Muir made one as well. So Ali just can't stand the loan. But of course, in many ways, anyone that gets a 147 stands alone. So what's going on then? It's a combination of reasons. Let's hear some of them. I'm saying for certain it's feeding off each other. And I'm likening it to those times. I remember the recent World Championship when Neil Robertson made one. There was one coming for about 2 or 3 days. I remember I was talking about it on here. Everyone was getting close. A good point by you, by the way, that they're getting close now as well, not just the ones making it. Could be 15, 20, the ones that are going so close. But it's definitely that. I think Pocket's a bit of a misnomer. I think they've been okay. They've behaved pretty well to me this season. I mean, people say rising standards, but I mean, that almost sounds like a bit of a glib line to me. I mean, it's suddenly risen in 3 months, have they? We're talking about from June to September in 25. They've been rising for years. I guess it could be one of those freaks in sport, who knows? But we're reveling in it. And at last, well, it's certainly for me, I'm starting to analyse it.
Yeah, I think the rising standards thing is right over a long period of time. There's generally a lot more now than there were 20, 30 plus years ago. But yeah, comparing this season to last season, it's not like the standard is suddenly significantly better, because last season was the record number 15. But at this stage of the season, we'd had 2, and now we've had 10. So we're on to smash that record if we carry on like this. So yeah, comparing last year to this year, you can't say it's the standard. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to to cop out of this, but it's just a freak thing, really, isn't it? I don't think there's one obvious reason for it. Although I suppose the more they happen, like you say, that it's just sort of a snowball effect. When the mystique starts to lose its shine a little bit. I mean, it's still a very special thing to do, and I'm not saying these guys aren't nervous, but they'll be a lot less nervous than they were in the past when they were a lot rarer, and it's just sort of happening more and more often. So that just naturally will mean more of them happening, I guess. Conditions are better, the players are better, but yeah, I don't think we can pinpoint why just over season to season, last one to this one, there's been so many more. But I had a look back over like the whole history of it. If we went from the first one to the 100th maximum, that was from 1982 to 2013. So that took 31 years to get 100. Then from number 100 to number 200 was 2013 to 2024, 11 years. And we're already on 227 1 year after that. So could only be 4 years till we get to 300, or maybe even less than that. So that's the rapid rate they've increased. And some of that is down to more and more matches. So that's another reason over the years. But again, not a reason for this season being so much more prolific than last season.
Brilliant. And you typical, almost like osmosis. You just talked for the right amount of time there. I was desperate to find out what I got wrong about the Ali Carter thing. He didn't play it hard enough. He did play.
Right.
I'll say he was never really. He was probably never likely to play the pink just without using the cushion. He did use the cushion. It just wasn't quite hard enough, and it wasn't absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Hendry had that absolute nightmare. Was that the one he got to get? Was that the 147 he got against Jimmy famously? With that awful, horrible black. There's been some right old stinker blacks over the years. One went to middle. Was that Selby? I think might have been.
Rings
But
a bell.
this was just a bit tricky, and you wouldn't not one he would have wanted. He would have loved it straighter, but he got it. And yeah, good stuff for the 147. And yeah, I think that the answer is it's probably a freak. But yeah, it's certainly fascinating. And I think Hendry was talking, wasn't he, about maybe they're losing their shine a bit. But I noticed a few fans, and I've seen this on forums. They made the point that, and this is quite telling, and maybe the way to say it in a way. If you're there seeing it, they'll probably never lose their shine because it's still amazing if you see it. Because that's a good way of saying it, I think. And well, maybe I should just complete a little bit of story from yesterday. Well, last night, Jack Lasowski and Zhao Xintong. I mean, again, that European Cup football took over for me in my work duties. So I kept flicking back a little bit and still catching the balls again. He didn't seem to give Zhao much of a chance. 1-4-1. Great stuff from Jack. Breaks of 92, 84, and 86. And, well, Mark Allen beat Stuart Bingham. I saw none of that last night, apart from the scores. And I thought the scores looked great. Break of 1-1-8 in the decider for Allen. So, loads going on. I feel like I hog everything. You can run through the last 16 if you want, but certainly back to you for a word on what we've seen in the last few days. It's been just marvellous. And, Lazowski, he's had a couple of dodgy results of late, but he was bang on it against Ella. We've seen how well Zhao was playing, so doffing the cap to Jack.
Yeah, great win for him. Yeah, Savsky's played Tapchire and then Zhao, so one for the stylists amongst us. There's some great matches there, and yeah, Zhao did tail off a bit. So did Robertson. I thought like that shows how it can chop and change because they were brilliant and then not so good, but take nothing away from Page and Lasowski for winning the matches. And yeah, Hill. I mean, that's a great win for Hill. Obviously, Carter's playing well to make a max. And Trevor Casey on Twitter replied to me saying that Hill's won every single one of his best of sevens so far this season. Which, if you can keep up that record, you can have a very, very good season, even if you lose every other match you play that is of a different length. So if you master a best of seven, then you're doing all right.
He'll certainly get you all the ITV series, won't he?
Well, yeah, you'll get to a lot of finals anyway. I'm not sure you'll do well there, but yeah, no, very impressive from him. But yeah, so the last 16, they've got some very nice matches. So this is starting on Thursday afternoon. Joey Long against Barry Hawkins, Judd Trump Elliott Slesser. Another good run from Slesser. He's becoming very consistent, isn't he? Page against Sean Murphy. Luca Brissell against Robbie Williams. Wu Yiza, Mark Selby. That's a nice one. Mark Allen, Ding Junhui. Huge game there. Ricky Walden, Jack Jones. And then Aaron Hill against Jack Lazowski, which they will both be seeing as a chance for a quarter final. And as you say, Jack, he actually started the season all right, but he's had some sticky results. I know he's had a tough time, obviously, off the table, but nice to see him doing well again. But yeah, shaping up very nicely for the business end.
No, very much so. I was saying to you, this is a Thursday morning, and I had been for a few days thinking about a possible big snooker treble, but I must admit I'm completely worn out, especially with all this nighttime football and sport going on this week, and just how busy it's been. So I'm thinking I might have to do a 2 out of 3. Ain't bad. I'm playing my good friend, that lovely boy of journalism, Mark George, who you know as well, at King's Cross coming up soon. And obviously I'll make that because it's rude not to. But I could also go to Brentwood. I'm just thinking I'm really, really dog tired, so I'm not sure. But you reading those out, I think I've got that little temptation, It's going to be good tonight, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be good in the afternoon, but the night looks absolutely electric stuff. I mean, my goodness. I saw Mark Selby talk a bit about that Wu Yiza match. What a prospect that is. And Mark Allen and Ding, yeah, brilliant.
And that's a tough one for the table, talking about TV table choices.
Yeah.
There at the same time, Wu against Selby and Allen against Ding. Pick one out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I know we've only been picking out highlights, but I don't think we mentioned Ricky Ward and Jack Jones. I mean, they're both still going strong,
Yeah.
and Lazowski and Hill. We certainly mentioned those two, and well, and that means, of course, it wouldn't say an unlikely name, certainly in Jack's case, or Ricky's really, but a different-ish sort of name, certainly to recent weeks and months in the semis there, I would think. So,
Yes.
so there we are. We're looking forward to that. That's the last 16 today, Thursday. I know many of you will probably be listening, no doubt, when the match is already decided. So the scores will be there on snooker.org, but they are coming back, to play these matches today, Thursday, the Stars. And then obviously quarterfinals coming up tomorrow, Friday, and then over the weekend we'll see the semis and the final. So yeah, I mean we've got some correspondence on Brentwood later. Well, one piece and not particularly complimentary, but what people are saying is that, and I'm saying it a lot, the crowds are there, and
Mm.
they've been turning up in numbers, great value, and there we go. What more can we say? I feel like I've been talking about Brentwood for ages. And typical. I've wore myself out so much on about Brentwood in the build-up. When it comes to it, I'm all Brentwooded out, Phil.
Tell you what, Brentwood, I was going to mention this later, but may as well do it now. The Matchroom documentary on Netflix, The Greatest Showman, is out. I watched the first couple of episodes, and Brentwood gets a quite a big showing actually on there. It's quite sort of juxtaposed because Eddie Hearn goes down to, I guess it's last year's English Open, and the same week he's hosting Anthony Joshua against Daniel Dubois at a sold-out Wembley Stadium. And yeah, I suppose it doesn't paint Brentwood in the best light either, even on Matchroom's own documentary. They're trying to catch a pigeon that's got in. And not really managing to do so. So yeah, even in the promoter's own film, they're not necessarily bigging up Brentwood too much. But yeah, look, one thing I think we've always been very fair on how popular it is and how good the crowds are, and it's great value, and that's good because they can't all be um, the blockbuster, super showy, expensive events. It's great to keep snooker sort of what's the word, just at its roots to an extent, and it clearly works because people turn up and watch, and the snooker's been brilliant. It's a bit of a faff to get to up to that arena. I was going to say, I suppose you could call it an arena. I suppose the facilities aren't the best, but in terms of getting in to watch loads of great snooker for not very much money, it's very good, and people, the numbers that turn up prove that.
Yeah, I did hear they're getting a bit of a kicking in, in this new documentary. So I'm just looking at comments here from Barry Hearn to BBC Essex in the recent days, and he says, it needs a bit of TLC. I mean, he says it's not the same when you're bringing world-class sportsmen and a kid goes past with his swimming trunks on dripping. That brings back memories of Barnsley to me. Do you want a towel, mate? No, I don't, Colonel. I'm going in for the snooker. Brilliant. Um, anyway, well, the thing is, there's a bit of Essex rivalry, Phil, because they're building this new venue. That I mean, the impressions of it look terrific in Basildon. So there's a bit of a
Mm.
Basildon Brentwood thing going on down there, and yeah. Well, that's the thing. And also, when you speak to people from WST, they'll sort of, on the media side, you sort of think, oh, I'm going a bit far. And then they'll sort of be ruder about Brentwood than you are. You think, oh, well, maybe I could have gone further. But anyway, Phil, we've done loads on the English so far, but quite right. It's been brilliant. What a tournament so far. 4 days to go. And shall we move on? Should we give a name check now and then move on to the British Open, which is coming up? And we'll say you are listening here to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. The British Open is coming up then, back-to-back tournaments here in the UK, where, of course, Phil and I are, and this one is in Cheltenham. And, well, I think I called it the ITV series earlier, and that the problem is, of course, it won't be any more, but ITV will be showing this event. And I look at the schedule for Monday, Phil, on ITV4, and this is one for the teenagers. Live snooker, followed by Magnum PI, sporting moments of the 70s, more live snooker, and an audit with Billy Connolly. I mean, it's almost like they let me loose on the controls there, but it's not me. It's just a great lineup. We're looking forward to it, aren't we? The British does deliver, and we've enjoyed it since it came back, no question. It has that old name of history. It's got a new luster now. And yeah, we talk about events being back to back, and that China thing's been going around in recent days. And I know Barry Hearn said what we've all often said. Well, you know, the sponsors and promoters in China don't want back to back events, understandably. But we obviously are spoilt here, so we have so many events we can have them back to back. And again, it lends to a bit of a different quality. We'll no doubt see no reason why we won't see, I think, a continuation of the brilliant standard and fare we've seen in Brentwood, and then up the road to Cheltenham, and let it continue. We've got a few highlights of matches, but just generally, I suspect as a great snooker lover, Phil, you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been great tournaments. It's come back. Yeah, um, yeah. The back to back stuff. I completely get well, it's Neil been saying it recently, but players say it. But I do think that whatever solution would come around, that there would be some complaints about something because these two have been back to back for a while. I remember it was the other way around a couple of years ago. It was the British and then the English, literally straight after, like it is. And it was that final where Williams beat Selby, and then they went straight to Brentwood. And neither, especially Mark Selby, were very happy about that. They were complaining about going straight from one to the other. Um, so if I'm sure if that was happening in China, that would be equally significant complaints by the people who go deep in tournaments and the people who probably lost first round because then they'd be hanging around for a week to go to the next one. Um, Also, and I'm not sort of having a go at people here because I do understand the complaints, but I'm sure if you said to the players, right, we're sticking all the Asian events at once, and you've got to go and live in China for 3 months or
I know
whatever
what
it
you're going to
is.
say. You're right. You're
They're not
right.
going to be happy about that, are they? They would really be even more annoyed about being away from their
And
families for
if they went out early, they'd be saying, "Oh, I'm hanging around in Shanghai for 5 days," wouldn't they?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is tricky. That happened actually when I did that piece on the new Professional Snooker Players Association where I spent Ben Rees, the lawyer who's involved with that. And I thought this when he mentioned it because he spoke about two things that they were wanting to sort of improve, and one of them was the amount of traveling and going back to back, going here, there, and everywhere. Then another one was time away from their families and how hard that is. I was like, well, fix one is going to make the other one worse, probably. And I think this would be the case here. So yeah, as I say, I do understand the difficulties and why it's hard, but given the other thing, I don't think they'd like that either, to be honest.
No, that's fair point. Well, we've got some marvelous matches coming up, and John Higgins, Mark Davis. I thought that's got to be a long time ago. 30 years ago, it was their first meeting at the Grand Prix. Wu Yi's Pang Jung Soo is one that lets out a bit as well. Wu won 4-0 actually when they met at the Grand Prix earlier this year. Mark Selby's got David Grace. Only their third meeting. I found that funny. One in 2010, one in 2020, now in 25. They're actually meant to play in 15 as well, but Mark pulled out of that tournament. So it's funny, sort of every 5 years increment on that one. Some players play each other so many times, and yet some players don't seem to. It's weird the way it works out. Mark Williams has got C Dry He. What a match. I mean, that was C famously winning, wasn't it, in that World Crucible match last year, World Championship. Judd Trump, Aaron Hill. I think you may have mentioned that when Aaron was on, didn't you? I think.
Mm.
Hill's won their only previous meeting. He's won. He's 1-0, as they say in American sports. 4-1 at the Northern Ireland Open 3 years ago. Aaron won that match. He likes playing big hitters, of course. So that's one of his sort of selling points, isn't he? As a player, he's turned over lots of giants. Kyron Wilson, Chris Wakelin. I mean, that's another cracker there. And Gary Wilson, Hossein Vafai. Now, I haven't looked at prices for Monday, but I suspect they're very competitive. If you want to get the Cheltenham Monday night, I presume tickets are still available. What a night! These are
Yeah.
nearly all these matches I mentioned, certainly from the Williams one onwards. They're all Monday night matches. I mean, absolutely cracking stuff. And then a few from Tuesday. I've got here Ben Wollaston, Noppon Sankam, Julian Boyko, Sam Craigie. Of course, Craigie was on with us here recently. Then Marco Fu, as you always mention, is such a dangerous player, far better than his rankings suggest, against Ian Burns. And yeah, it's these are only highlights. There's loads of matches. Look it up at snooker.org or WST. The draws will be there, and yeah, just looking forward to it. Really, always a good tournament. Thick and fast, bit other home nations, sort of thick and fast action, and pretty well talked about Cheltenham. I know it well from the racing. I think it's establishing itself as a snooker venue. And what I think about it is, I don't think it went down that well with the punters locally. Certainly the tickets didn't sell, I don't think, amazingly well first time, maybe even first two times. They stuck with it. Better now, become established, people like it. So easy to sit here. I'm not putting the money in and what have you, but sometimes persist with the venue, it can pay off.
Yeah, I've just got the tickets up here. The all-day ticket for Monday is sold out. It
Oh,
was
sorry then, you can't
£33.
get one.
Well, I think you can get there are oh no, the evening session is sold out as well.
Oh, sorry
There's still
everybody.
some available for the afternoon, but yeah, again, that's not bad value, is it? 33 quid for all that action on Monday. That's just one of these quirks that you used to get in the home nations as well. You still do to an extent, but well, you just get all a load of big names all at once there. That's great. But yeah, and then this is obviously the tournament with the unique nature of the FA Cup style random draw, which is why we're throwing together some big names early on. Great for us, less good for them. Well, less good for the big names. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy that. I don't know if it would work every tournament. I think the big players would get annoyed with it quite quick if you tried to do it more. But I think it's great as a one-off. Really gives it its own feel. This event, which is important, especially when you're going back to back. And this part of the calendar is so busy. Events need to stand out, which is difficult for them to do sometimes. But the draw does help that. Oh, and of course, I can't remember if you mentioned this or not, but Ronnie was in this draw, but he's not. He's been replaced by Daniel Womersley. So anyone who had bought their ticket, hoping to see Sanderson Lamb against Ronnie O'Sullivan, they're getting a Northern Snooker Centre derby between Lamb and Womersley instead.
That's right. Of course, Ronnie O'Sullivan pulling out for medical reasons. What did you have? What's the one session price for that? Have you got that up there? I know it's 30.
£19, just under 20 quid.
I always think 20 quid's a good barometer in sport. It's a good price. I
Mm.
think, 20's okay, I think. I mean, I can't talk for anyone else's finances apart from my own, actually, but I always think 20, you're okay with 20, I think. And that's good. So yeah, I think they'll be happy with that narrative. WFC will be giving me a pat on the back there, saying, "Oh, you get a ticket." No, you can't. That's how popular snooker is, Phil. All gone, all gone. There we are. I'm not surprised though, in a way. That lineup is terrific, and that's the
Mm.
benefit, as we often say. And that's been the problem with events where you don't always know the draw until late, which sometimes is unavoidable. In fairness to organisers,
Mm.
sometimes it's because of like the series of events like the Grand Prix can't always know those, for example, quickly, and other things as well, other reasons over the years for rankings. But when you do know them and you think, oh, well, actually, Judd's playing that night, Kyron. I mean, of course, people want tickets. That's fabulous stuff. And I think we move on from the British. Shall we? Unless you've got anything particularly more to say about that. I mean, looking forward to ITV coverage. Looking forward to settling down. Every day. I do understand what people are saying about television. I really do. It's a complicated market. It's a fragmented market these days. So, what I would say is, of course, I still think snooker's up there with maybe racing as being the most fortunate sports fans to see as much as and we do free to air. There's loads of free to air events, and some of it's been on free to air this week, of course, in the afternoon. So, but people will settle down. Of course, it's live on ITV all week, and it's just a tournament to relish, as you say, with that unique format. I hope they make a bit more of the draws than they sometimes have. I felt like they haven't always used the biggest selling point, one of the
Mm.
biggest selling point. It can't always do it, because as someone else pointed out to me, some of the earlier ones, it's just they might get a bit drawn out for telly, match after match. But later on, that's a bit of pizzazz. Let's make it big. That's the way I would say it.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit hit and miss, haven't they? Sometimes I feel like they have done that. Rob Walker's done it. I think it's just sort of the schedule of the matches gets a bit funny because I've seen them try and do it sometimes, and there's loads of he's playing someone or someone, and then if there's loads of and/ors, it just becomes quite messy. So I think they do want to. It's just sort of the way the matches fall makes it a bit complicated sometimes. But yeah, they should if they can, definitely. I know the UK Open darts, which is the same format. They're on stage at that Lynn's in Minehead, with the pundits on there drawing them out like it is the FA Cup. It's all part of the show. It's good stuff, and they sort of end that session at the end of TV to come back later in the evening or whatever, and then play those matches. So it's all part of the spectacle, and as you and I have said, like it's a highlight of the event. So make the most out of it if possible.
Yes, I mean that's a good way of summing it up. Look forward to the British and enjoying it, everyone. I mean, we don't aim for much more than now these days. I think we've done quite a lot more than I thought we would already. But we are. I think we are going to try and do our best home nations, aren't we? Coming up, because that series is coming up to a decade old. We did suggest that, in case we needed more filler. But we have first your views, Phil. Let's get to it and go to Scott McCarter first, who says, Dear Nick and Phil, it's Scott McCarter here of 15 Red podcast fame. I noted with interest that you were looking for people to write in and talk about their plans for going to see our great sport live. Get the bingo card out, Phil. We've got an hour sport here. Brilliant stuff. Our great sport. A nice little variation on the theme. I'm delighted to report that after an 8-year gap, I will be returning to the Waterfront Hall in our capital city of Belfast. For once, Dad's annual golfing holiday with his mates from the cricket club did not clash with the latter stages. That won't be a quiet couple of days at the library, will it? Those boys. Golfing holiday with them, yeah, that'll be a rum old seed. I bet what happens on tour stays on tour with that one. Maybe not. Maybe it's a bit. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It's probably a bit calmer than it once was. Anyway, so he and I will be making the 70-mile journey from Ballymagori in County Tyrone on Saturday, 25th of October for the evening semi-final. Exciting times ahead, and even more of an incentive. Not that I need it, to keep an eye on things between now and then. I trust Phil enjoyed his Italian excursion. Thanks again, chaps. Yours, Scott. So yeah, well, I know you can talk about your holiday. I know you mentioned that you had a great time, and I've made some quite damning allegations about what that golf club trip is like. Never mind. I've dug myself a hole there. Get me out of it.
No. There's some truth to it for sure. Yeah, I did enjoy the Italian excursion. Thank you very much, Scott. Here's Owen Harris. That's my dog's barking, if you can hear that. Hi, Chris Wakelin is brilliant these days, and he seemed to really kick on after he won the shootout. It's similar to how Kyron stepped it up a level after he won the World Championship. My question is, would Wakelin be where he is today if he didn't win the shootout? And is this an argument for why the shootout being a ranking event is a good thing? Chris is one of my favourite players, and I look forward to him winning his next ranking event. Thanks, Owen. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's definitely true about Chris stepping up a level. And he's definitely one of my favourite players to listen to. I find him fascinating, the way he talks, and he's brilliant to watch. Yeah, I mean, he'd been through a really bleak patch, hadn't he? I think we spoke to him after that, didn't we? He'd lost loads of games, and then he sort of won the shootout out of nowhere, and he's not looked back since. So it's interesting to think if he'd lost that, that one frame final, would it all have not happened? I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things we'll never know. But it certainly helps. Whether it being a ranking event or not, I don't know if that made a difference. If it was a non-ranking shootout and he'd won it, I think the confidence and everything would have still been the same. But yeah, it could be one of those sliding door moments. He made a century in that final, didn't he? If he just missed a shot early, who knows what would have happened?
I don't normally depart from you, but I wonder whether I don't think it should be a ranking event, and I've always maintained that. And it's not really the difference in rules; it's more the sort of shouting and the noise. I've always believed it should not be. But I wonder whether players do take more from it for being a ranking. I know that people will say, "Oh, it shouldn't be," or like I just said, but same token, there's that status of it. I mean, look for example. Yeah, I think maybe that they would take a little bit more say than had it been the old days when it wasn't. But listen, that's only a matter of opinion. I do think he's boosted by winning that. I think he's come on. I think that is without doubt, and he's a proper customer now in snooker. Chris Wakelin, such a good player, and it's great to hear from you, Owen. He joined us on here once upon a time. Feels like going back quite a long time now, doesn't it? In the history of this podcast. Well, Robert is next and says, when Sean Murphy is at his best, it seems crazy to me that he hasn't won more in snooker. He's pretty much unplayable when he's at his best. Do you guys think he's underachieved? Well, I've made this point that I don't think so. And I think that's changed probably, maybe in the last 5, 6, 7 years. There was a time I might have thought so. I think he's sort of won too much. I mean, you could say underachieved about almost all the top stars. You can make that case. I mean, John Virgo, in his famous appearance on here, said that Ronnie O'Sullivan had That's going back a few years now. Well, he's won more since then, of course. But I think John Virgo would probably still say that. And you can make that case about Ronnie, can't you? He's such a genius. He's so outrageous. He could have won a dozen world titles, 10 or 12. Of course, he could have done. But listen, yeah, I mean, Sean's a multiple Masters winner now. He's won the World in the UK. He's won so many other big tournaments. He's been an unbelievable star. He's got maximums. He's looked the part for 2 decades. Yeah, I suppose you think, why are you not always like that? But that's naive, isn't it? Because you can't always be amazing like he was the other night. But he's one of snooker's joys to watch at his best. But I'd say probably not underachieved now in the sense that I think he has won so much. If he retired now, I think not only would you say he's been a joy to watch, I think he's got a very, very good CV ultimately. That's the way I'd sum it up.
Oh yeah, it's a superb CV, one of the best ever. But yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know how he'd feel about it. I sort of think of him because they're similar ages, aren't they? Him, Selby, and Robertson. You sort of class similarly, but he's way behind those two in terms of titles. I think he's sort of half them in terms of ranking titles. So I suppose he would think he should be a bit closer to those guys. Um, Considering you think he's one of these players, like if he's playing anyone, he's not going to be. He might not be favourite against anyone, but he's not going to be far off. He's not going to be wildly different in odds. Other than I think he's got a terrible record against O'Sullivan. But other than that, you're not surprised if he beats anyone. So yeah, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, as you said, you can still have an unbelievably good CV. You can have the best CV in the game and still think you might underachieve. So certainly not a criticism, really. But yeah, I think maybe he would have thought he would have been a bit closer to who I think he would see as his two main contemporaries of Robertson and Selby.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's a very fair way of saying it. I think you're next with Neil Caesar.
Yeah, here we go. Can commentators now stop getting excited when a player pots three reds and three blacks, etc.? Maxims are now so regular that it is no longer newsworthy. Well, I mean, that's a bit joyless, isn't it? I would say from Neil there. You can still enjoy them even if they're quite regular.
Well, I can be joyless a lot of days, so I get it. But uh, what I thought about this is the flip side is if they didn't call it, people would probably say, you see, what you didn't even call it. Call yourself an expert. I think they almost need to cover themselves. And I don't think it's gone too far, even in a season when we've seen 10 by September, that I think these guys are probably, it's unlikely that they're not going to, because let's face it, as much as anything else, I mean, yeah, listen, there aren't too many commentators. You tend to hear the same voices, but at the same token, they don't do every maximum, so they're not in the box for every one. So they're not seeing 10, or they're part of it as well. So maybe they have a genuine. I'm sure they do have a genuine excitement. So I think that and that's probably going a bit far from Neil. But thanks for your correspondence, Neil, and it's always good to hear from you. And well, that aforementioned correspondence about Brentwood, John in Northampton. I've just been to the English Open. I think it's something that about functional. I've heard you use that word, and that's about right. But facilities wise, it's nowhere near where it should be. I've not been to Edinburgh for the Scottish Open, but I've done Belfast and Llandudno, and they're both far better venues and locations. The Essex fans deserve better. Well, I was in Llandudno early this year, actually, and what a lovely place that is. And I've had many good times in Belfast, and you can't compare the two, clearly, location-wise. They have advantages, the Welsh and the tournament on the island of Ireland. We said that. The English has disadvantages for the same reason, but it's been the home nations event that's had the least love, and I think that's because of venue. Funny enough, I think, and I don't think it's brilliant, Brentwood, in a lot of ways. Really, I mean, I'm a railways man, so it's miles away from the station. But listen, fans turn up. It's a leisure centre, and it really is a leisure centre. It's not even a plush leisure centre. It's an old school 40, 50-year-old provincial leisure centre, isn't it, really? With the smell of chlorine and the little cafe selling sausage rolls. And that's what it is. And I say it's cheap. I think it's cheap to the point of getting it for now, isn't it? Which is partly part of the deal. So it's always finances. But yeah, I mean, John sort of says it all. I don't know. The Essex fans will feel they deserve better. They might think I'm sure many will say we had a great afternoon and evening out for not much money. So they're probably not going to go and worry about it too much. But yeah, in an ideal world, it would be a better venue. Back to you, Phil Hay.
Yeah, definitely. You said that quote from Barry Hearn, didn't you? He's put it there, and he's sort of taking the mick out of it, isn't he? So like everyone knows what it is. Like there's no sort of um smoke and mirrors. It's just a very cheap venue and probably the cheapest snooker you get on the calendar. So I do like that there's variety. As I say, you couldn't have every tournament at the prices of the Crucible. That would be sort of disastrous for snooker fans. So I don't mind a bit cheap and cheerful, but you would like cheap and cheerful to meet a certain standards of just what food and drink you can get hold of. I think.
And Ben Winstanley, the aforementioned, my friend, the journalist, did tug at my 70s and 80s heartstrings, which isn't too hard, when he said a grounded sport in grounded places. I thought, yeah, that's part of it too.
Yeah, for sure. So here's James Brandon Hamilton in Dublin. I wish the commentators nowadays wouldn't talk so much. Stephen Hallworth is the latest to fall into that trap, telling us how amazing and dramatic everything is every 2 minutes has the opposite effect for me, and I'm sure I can't be alone. I wish they would take a leaf out of the book of commentators of the past like Ted Lowe and Jack Carnham, who only spoke when really necessary. Well, this is each their own thing, isn't it? I know I've heard a lot of people say stuff like this before, so a lot of people feel that way for sure. But I'm more the other way, really. People can talk too much. I think you can hear it when it's in the Championship League when they give players a go who aren't commentators, they're just having a crack at it, and some of them really do, as James says, they fall into the trap. I think I heard Gary Wilson doing it there, and he just said he just spoke and spoke and spoke, and that's what happens when you're inexperienced and people would learn. But I think in general it's not too much. And I think when I watch like old footage of like the guys that James has mentioned then, who are sort of legendary commentators, but I think it's almost comical how little they speak.
Yeah.
Like I can't get my head around it now, and maybe that's just because of what I'm used to these days. But I think they should be saying way more stuff. Like they're just sat there doing nothing. But that's my preference, and James has a different preference. So yeah, if you're commentating, you've just got to do what feels natural for you because you literally cannot please everyone or even close to it because people have very widely different opinions on what commentators should be doing.
Yeah, well summed up. I mean, I've got those extra years on you, so I sort of grew up more in the commentators being quieter era, and it's just what we expected then. We didn't think anything different of it, you know. Maybe it's a bit unfair, but the dear old Dan Maskell is always the one I use from Wimbledon. You know, you'd get an occasional "oh, I say" every sort of 3 minutes, and that would be Dan. You wonder if he was there. Um, yeah, they with hindsight, I suppose they talked too little in those days. They didn't say enough, actually. You know, they were good company at the time, and I thought those voices from yesteryear were terrific. You know, like mentioned here, Ted Lowe, Jack Carnham, yeah, fabulous voices from a bygone age. But they didn't really talk enough. They didn't really offer anything, a great amount of context or analysis. And you would argue across the board that commentators do talk too much now. But I think the ideal would be nearer to what it's like now than what it was like in the past. I would say it like that. I would say it like that. And yeah, I mean, look, I do think some let the action breathe a bit more than others. I always think, and there's some that do this very well. There are periods when, and we see it a lot of Brentwood, of course, this week, when players are right in the balls and they're very, very unlikely to miss. They're just playing little screw shots, little stun shots, red, black, red, black, red, pink, when you don't always need to be offering absolutely loads of chat about everything. But there are times when the frame is much more dramatic, when, say, well, if it's a journalist and pundit, for example, you want one guy to be analysing the shots all the time, one guy to be, offering context of what the drama and what their situation means in the match. But there is a balance, and I think if someone's talking every single moment, I think it's fair to say that probably is too much. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely horses for courses, and there we go, Phil. Well, I think we're not far from the hour mark. In fact, we might have even just about already got there. So what we're going to do, aren't we now? And thanks for your correspondence. Keep it coming to us, especially if you're going to Brentwood for the rest of the tournament. Maybe you want to defend Brentwood. Maybe you've had a really good time there. Please do message us. We'll read it out. No question about that. And maybe give Brentwood a bit of that TLC that Barry Hearn's talking about, talking snooker at yahoo.com, or tweet us at talking snooker. Well, we swapped texts, and this is the least scientific thing of all time, Phil. We thought we'd name three finals each, didn't we, from the home nations? And we thought maybe you'd like to get in touch. We do 1-1-1-1 like that.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go first. But Mark King beat. I always seem to go first. Sorry, Mark King beat Barry Hawkins 9-8 to win the 16 Northern Ireland Open. Look, I think what's happened with Mark King has painted a bit of a different picture on it, hasn't it? But his career is effectively, I suppose, we would say, would have ended in disgrace really after being found guilty of match fixing. But I don't think it necessarily takes away all our memories, does it? I think it's fair to say, and that was pure drama. I remember Colin Murray writing about it in Metro a week after, and that was in the November, I think, of 16. The following month, we were out for Christmas drinks, and I do remember having a conversation with Colin, and we were saying, had snooker, I mean, it is a very big sport, snooker, but had it been an absolute mad, one of those big frontline sports that dominate our lives, like a football, for example, and someone had spoken like Mark King had done, it would be so much headlines. I mean, it was so emotional, wasn't it? And it was just one of those sort of, again, it has taken such a sour turn, but with the story of Mark King, but at the time it had that fairy tale quality. Anthony Hamilton wasn't far after, was it? It was those stories of players that have been around forever. They get more chances to win than now. He did deliver, so that was my first one, and it was and Northern Ireland has been just a brilliant, brilliant tournament, by the way. So I think that's our only one from that tournament. It could have been loads more. I'll talk about a Mark Allen one coming up later. But yeah, that Mark King one is the earliest example, I think, of, this home nations thing might work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and they earlier threw up more surprising winners, I suppose. Although having said that, all three of mine are surprise winners, and all from the same tournament. So just the finals we're doing here. So if you were to analyze a whole tournament, then it might be different. But final wise, my first one is Jordan Brown 9, Ronnie O'Sullivan 8 at the 2021 Welsh Open. I mean, just considering like what's happened since as well, Jordan hasn't really kicked on too much from that. It's just even bigger surprise, or just as much of a surprise it seemed at the time. Just ridiculous. Jordan won caused some upsets to get to the final against Selby and Maguire, and then to take on O'Sullivan in the very strange surroundings of an empty Celtic manor. Um, weird stuff. But just did brilliantly well. I forget where he was ranked in the world at that point, but way down the rankings. I think he'd been to one quarter final before. And then to beat the Rocket in the final in a decider, no less. Um, just absurd stuff, really, and will go down as one of the biggest shocks in snooker history.
And of course, the other great, lovely quality about that is you were there. And I remember us talking
Mm.
about it. We brought up some proper history on this podcast, and I remember you saying the pure excitement in the media room, and it feels funny to reflect back on it now, but they were glad to get there because they've just been at. Was that the first one? Literally the first one outside MK. Either was either was or one of the first ones. And like, thank
Yeah.
God, somewhere else. And it was a funny quality. It was an amazing effort from Jordan. No, it's a great selection. That really was memorable. Well, the other one was one of those that. I mean, it's just pure for the snooker theatre of it. I thought Neil Robertson being Carrie Peng 9-8 to win the Scottish in 17 was just, I remember being at Metro covering sports personality. I've always done a sports personality job, and that was no different. I had half an eye on the snooker. I remember just sports personality finishing, I think pretty much the shift finishing, but still being absolutely gripped by the drama. And Robertson, by his own admission, I had to look back at the quotes. He said I was being outplayed. It was 8-4
Mm.
to Cow. Then he got increasingly nervous, and Taylor's oldest time, you could see it happening in slow motion. Neil coming back and back and back. There was one ball, I can't remember if it was a pink or black now. I don't remember the last time a major moment and a pot and a ball went that close without going in. It was ridiculous. It rattled the jaws. That was when it was 8-7. Got a decider and Neil won it. Yeah, I mean, a classic example. It's very often the bigger player. Classic example of a bigger player, backs against the wall, last chance saloon, but pulling it off.
Yeah, I feel like Robertson's done that a few times, hasn't he? He's good at that. Yeah, I think he win the last 5 frames? I mean, that's heartbreaking, especially because I mean, Carrie Peng's had a funny career, hasn't he? He looked really good, then he obviously got banned, came back, was looking good again, and then just has disappeared again, gone off to play pool. I think he has. Um, so yeah, no, that was a very good selection. Early drama in Glasgow, I think that one.
Yeah.
The early Scottish Opens. Um, and mine, similar theme throughout mine, really, but it's a different vibe in the 2022 Welsh Open when Joe Perry beat Judd Trump to win it 9-5. Joe Perry nowhere near as big a shock as Jordan Brown, established um, in the upper echelons of snooker for many years, but had been having a shocker for some time. He was not coming into the 2022 Welsh Open being tipped by many to win it. He came on here after that, didn't he? And he spoke brilliantly about how his career reached that point and what it meant to him. And it was just amazing to watch. As it wasn't, I suppose, a classic final because he ended up winning reasonably comfortably against Judd in that final. But Joe was just the better player. But lovely emotional scenes with his parents there. Um, I think he'd not given up, obviously, because these guys don't give up until they do give up. Um, but he hadn't. I don't think he had great expectations of lifting another major title. And with the Welsh, I suppose it is the most historic and prestigious of these four tournaments,
Mm.
isn't it? So I think
Yeah.
it meant a little bit more that it was that one, and to beat Judd in the final. Brilliant stuff. And yeah, I think that Joe Perry episode on here is probably worth a re-listen. It was one of my favourite ones. Um, yeah, so that was a memorable evening in Newport. That one I think the Welsh moved around a bit. I think that one was Newport.
Yes, well remembered. It was, wasn't it? It was that very, very nice place in Newport they used for 1 year only. I
Hmm.
think I'm right in saying. I remember everyone waxing absolutely. I think it cost a fortune, by the way, and I think it moved to London after that. I think I'm right in saying that. And Irene Sriharan spoke very well of that episode. In fact, she said that sort of sparked her friendship with Joe, of course, that's brought great things, including a great boost to snooker in Sri Lanka, of course. So yeah, that Joe was fabulous on here. You're quite right. Well, when I started doing this last one, I thought, oh, do you know what? I should have gone for a different one, but it's not scientific, it's a selection. And this last one is because it's the one I was at. So you had that sort of first hand memory of it. And it's a bit of love to the English, which has been the poor relation of the home nations, really. And it was Neil Robertson beating John Higgins 9-8. Now, that was a 21 English. It sticks in the memory for me because it was still COVID times. And it still had, you had to walk in a certain way at Milton Keynes. I think I was working out between the 2020 Masters in January 20 and this tournament in MK in November 21. The only live snooker I've been at was the 2 days that we were allowed to go to the Crucible in
Yeah.
21. That we were allowed to go. We took full advantage, didn't we? I was thinking it was just a Tuesday and Wednesday of the courses, but actually, our good friend Ivan Herstovich said if you get there Monday and it gets cleared, you come Monday night as well, which I certainly did. I think you might have done as well. So we got like 2 and a bit days. That
Hmm.
wasn't a lot in nearly 2 years. So I was glad to be there. There was that quality to it, and also pure drama for a final. And what I remember is every single person in the press room seemed to have that moment. It wasn't. You wouldn't say it was a light bulb moment. It was an obvious moment. Oh no, it's 8-6 to John Higgins. The same thing had happened a few weeks previously in Northern Ireland. For some reason, that year the English was after Northern Ireland. I think every other year ever it's been before. That year was after. Maybe been to do with COVID. I'm not. I can't remember now. But that it was after, and yes, and it was almost like, oh no, I think it's going to happen again, and it did. And John was absolutely broken. It was a horrible thing to remember, but it was memorable. That's the thing to say about it. I was just thinking though, I don't. Some reason I do get jealous of not being a big sport. I can tell you, no doubt about it. But I don't so much really to get it with snooker for some reason. I don't quite know why that would be, but that's one that I think I probably did get it for. I thought everyone that was at that Belfast final, Mark Allen, John Higgins, said it was amazing. Everyone that I know that I spoke to that was there said, yeah, that was special. I think had I been at that, that probably would have been the one. It could have been the one anyway, but I thought they're almost equal, these two really. But those finals in the autumn of 21, Allen beating Higgins and then Robertson beating Higgins. But I've gone for the English one because I was there. But they were just brilliant. Poor old John at that stage, Phil. We were thinking, is he ever going to get over the line in these finals? He was thinking the same thing. It was painful to see him. It really was.
It was a bit, wasn't it? It got even worse actually with that other one he lost to Neil, the Tour Championship. It was the Tour
Yeah,
Championship, wasn't it?
it
Yeah.
was, I think. Yeah.
Um, yeah, grim, but yeah, memorable. Yeah, and I suppose it was Mark in Belfast made the atmosphere did look incredibly through TV. So yeah, up for grabs, but two great finals, and my final one I've sort of given it away really. But another unlikely winner at the Welsh Open was Rob Milkins beating Sean Murphy in the final. Sean Murphy moonwalking into the final there. in memorable scenes that's been clipped up on montages since then. Not the best standard final. You know, Milkins won it 9-7 with a high break of 66,
All right.
which you don't
Wow.
see too often, I suppose, these days.
Hmm.
But again, it was more sort of what it meant. He had already won that Gibraltar title, which was huge, obviously, after such a long career without anything. But then this was bigger and cemented that what a great time he'd had after a long old time plugging away on tour. And lovely emotional scenes with his friends and those people that meant so much to him over his life, his career afterwards. So yeah, I think everyone was delighted for Rob to win that. Um, and yeah, it made a hat trick, 3 consecutive years, 21, 2, 3 of just I don't know what the odds were. Milkins probably would have been the shortest odds of those three winners, but cool, if you'd seen the future in early 2021 and put on a bet of those three winning, you'd be doing all right. You wouldn't be having to work much after that.
Quite right. But I looked through it. I suppose I thought, well, actually, maybe not hamming it up too much. It's coming up 10 years, so that's coming up 40 finals. So it's been a lot of them. But same token, the ones that we haven't gone for, there's been some absolutely brilliant ones. Some of those Judd Ronnie finals, for example, the Northern Ireland. There's been loads of other deciders. One that Stuart won, I think, at the Welsh. Did he beat Judd in that? That was great, I think. Stuart Bingham repeated that World semi. I think Bingham got the job done again. So many. It's just been brilliant. It sounds like an advert to keep it, and I suppose I would quite like them to keep it, really. But we'll see. But yeah, just great venues, great nights, great drama. And, people often say about, I mean, I'm not fussed about prize money in the slightest, really. People say, oh, it's not so much because of that. But it just shows there's more to it than that, because some of these matches have been as good as any matches we've ever seen in snooker, frankly, Phil. So we're asking people, aren't we? And this can run throughout the season. It'd be good, Phil, at different times. What's been your favourite of the Home Nations finals? Tweet us at Talking Snooker or email talkingsnooker@yahoo.com. And yeah, we've been spoilt with those, and maybe we should come to an end, Phil. Any other business? Well, over to you first. You've had some fabulous interviews. Poor old Gary Wilson, though, he just can't enjoy his snooker. I don't think we said that on air. So I think you must have been since we last were on. I mean, there's no point being flippant or joking about it. I feel sorry for Gary because he's a good guy. He's a bloody good snooker player, but he gets so little enjoyment out of it. It feels unreal at times.
Yeah, it's hard. It's sort of painful talking to him sometimes because you're just trying to cheer him up. And then, I mean, some people would be a bit unsympathetic and be like, "Well, just cheer up," but it's hard. I mean, he would love to. And yeah, like you say, it's a shame, isn't it? Because he's one of the best players in the world. I think he's 16 in the world again, but he's certainly up there and has been for a while with one of the best players on the planet. But can't get any enjoyment out of it. But and I think he gets not too much sympathy from players low down the rankings who aren't earning as much money and doing as well as him. And be like, oh, I wouldn't, yeah, I would love to be where you are, but um, yeah, it's just frustration, endless frustration. That's what this game does to a lot of players at various levels. And I did a chat with Michael Holt as well, who said similar things, really, but just at a slightly lower level. It's just not doing what you know you can do. Um, and that a lot of sportsmen, individual sportsmen especially, will feel that and know what they're talking about. But yeah, and yeah, it's a shame, as I said. I feel bad for Gary, but he'll keep going and he'll probably keep winning a lot of big matches because he's good enough that even if he's so frustrated that he hates it, he's still good enough to win games against the best players in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen Michael Holt talking about Steve Davis and him being a nice influence on him. And loads of your stuff there on the Metro website. You've been so busy with different interviews as ever. It's great stuff. Well, I've been on the air again on Radio Snooker with your views on the loss of tournaments in mainland Europe following that great appearance from Kati Carty Hartinger. I get her name right eventually, Phil. Carty Hartinger from Total Clearance podcast, who was on with me last month on there. She was great, and the reaction has been fulsome. So thank you for that. And Phil, I think we're going to shoot off. Typical, isn't it? We've overcompensated, thinking we might not have enough. We've done more than we've done for ages. It was always going to be that way, wasn't it? Typical. We wanted to get those good finals in, though. We could have left that for another week, but it's good to get them in. Let's finish on what is, I'm afraid, a very sad note. I know we often do talk about other issues in sport, particularly, but other issues in life as well, but certainly in sport. A word about Ricky Hatton, who's died at the age of 46. I mean, Phil, you're much more a boxing man than I am, and there haven't been many more popular British boxers than Ricky has there. I mean, he was adored by his fans, a proper working class hero and a sort of truly proud son of Manchester. And I was thinking those images, those scenes of hordes of his fans heading to fights in Las Vegas and elsewhere will stay long in the memory. It's truly sad news for boxing fans and sports fans everywhere, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it was horrible news on Sunday when that came through. Really shocking. I know he'd been through some really tough times with sort of addiction and mental health issues, but he seemed to actually be in a much better place. I listened to people who knew him, and um, it's Steve Bunce I was listening to saying that if this had happened a few years ago, he wouldn't have been that surprised, but he was absolutely stunned when it did happen. So, yeah, tremendously sad, and it's unbelievable person, really. Great boxer, obviously world champion, but people just loved him because he seemed like he was just their mate, wasn't he? Just
Yeah, he was.
down the pub, just funny bloke. I was actually over in Manchester darts thing yesterday, and I spoke to Phil Taylor, who was friends with him, and had some nice words to say about just what a normal guy he was, and but achieved such amazing things. So yeah, that was tremendously sad. So thoughts for everyone who not just knew him personally, but felt like they knew him, which was most which was most people, and that was what was such a good quality about him.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of saying it, actually. Those of us that didn't know Ricky, which is most of us, felt like in a way we did. We had that connection to him. He was had that wonderful, man down the pub, man in the street quality about him. And just thinking about all those people that spoke to him at Manchester City and knew him well, and spoken about him, people like Michael Richards and even Pep Guardiola, bowled over by what just a great bloke and a down to earth bloke Ricky was. And yeah, we just say, condolences to the family and friends of Ricky Hatton, and Ricky, may you rest in peace. There's lots of good sport going on. Word for the World Athletics in Tokyo, that continues. But most importantly, Phil, find snooker to enjoy. 4 more days of the English Open. And we're just really enjoying it, aren't we? Last 16 to come now, later on this day. And I won't ask you to pick a winner because Nostradamus couldn't do that. It's up for grabs. And may it carry on being as good as this. I mean, it's been an absolute feast for the eyes so far. If it carries on, we'll be all the better. Then straight into the British, and of course, next time we're on the air, we'll be reviewing the climax of the tournament. So when we next speak to you, we will know who's won.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have an even better Home Nations final to stick on our list of classics. So
Yeah.
yeah, let us know. I think we've probably hogged a lot of the good ones there, but if there's any standout to you for whatever reason, as Nick mentioned, if you're there, it can make a big difference to how you remember things, or just funny things like what's happening in your life at times can make matches stand out. So let us know on your favourite ones that we haven't mentioned, or even the ones that we have, if you've got a certain reason for why they stick out. Yeah, and as I say, hopefully we'll be talking about another great final next week.
Indeed. Good to see you, sir. And we'll be back. I say this is a bit later in the week, we know. So it might not be longer, a few days' time. We'll be back with you again on Talking Snooker. Thanks as ever for your company. Keep your views coming to us and enjoy the rest of the English Open, everybody. And for now, then, from your old friends, Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalf, cheerio.